The War of the Chosen expansion pack for XCOM 2 added 3 new soldier classes to the game's roster: the Skirmisher, Templar, and Reaper. Each of these classes has their own unique playstyle that shakes up the meta of the game's combat. Today we're going to look at the Reaper and how they function on the battlefield. XCOM's classes are divided into separate branches designed to fill specific roles. The ability point system added with War of the Chosen allows you to select skills from multiple branches, but there are still designated branches that you can go down that have synergy. The Reaper's skills are divided into 3 categories: Saboteur, Stealth, and Marksman. We're going to talk about the Saboteur first because blowing stuff up is awesome. The Reaper Saboteur makes some ridiculously big explosions. They can throw down 2 claymores in a single turn thanks to the Highland ability, and when you detonate them both simultaneously, they'll deal a maximum of 16 damage if you have the Shrapnel ability as well, which is more than enough to eliminate an entire pod of even the toughest enemies in the game, or at the very least leave them mangled and wanting to run home crying. But if you do that, then you've blown your entire load on foreplay and the rest of your squad will have to carry a lot of slack. The Saboteur is a one-trick pony, but that one trick is incredibly powerful, even if you use it more conservatively. Looking at this same group of enemies, we threw a homing mine onto the Advent mech. When it takes damage, the mine will explode and damage it and all nearby enemies. We switch over to our specialist, use combat protocol, and watch the fireworks. Overall, the Reaper Saboteur excels on short missions like Guerrilla Ops, but even those can leave it hurting if there are a lot of pods on the map. Even though you can still take shots with the Reaper's Vector Rifle, blow up the occasional car with Remote Start, or scout around from Shadow Concealment, your damage output is reduced significantly once you run out of bombs. That's the biggest downfall to this branch of the skill tree, but its strengths more than justify its weaknesses. The next set of skills are a direct contrast, and they'll have you doing dirty things to Advent all mission long. The goal of the Reaper Stealth Marksman is to finish the targets your regular XCOM operatives are having trouble with. I think of them like that guy at the bar that swoops in on a girl and takes her home after you've been buying her drinks all night. They still have access to a single claymore by default, which means they can still blow stuff up, but their effectiveness continues beyond the initial ambush. I find they combo best with soldiers that aren't likely to kill enemies in a single turn, but will leave them ripe for a killing blow. Advent mechs are powerful enemies, and even though a specialist can deal big, unmitigated, guaranteed damage to them with combat protocol, it's not always enough to one-shot kill. That's where the Reaper comes in. The Needle ability makes shots taken from Shadow have 2 armor piercing. This means targets that have 2 armor or less don't have 2 armor or less when they're getting shot by a Reaper in Shadow Concealment. This, in combination with the Silent Killer ability, means kill shots are guaranteed to leave you in Shadow Concealment. The ability Blood Trail makes kill shots easier. It increases your damage by 1 against targets that were wounded on your current turn. You can repeat this process for an entire mission, and because your Reaper is in concealment, they can scout for you and you'll always get the jump on enemies. Consistency is where the Stealth Marksman abilities shine. You won't be dealing as much damage in a single turn as the explosive toting Saboteur, but you can still turn the tide of battles by eliminating the highest priority targets from the cover of darkness. Overall, I think the choice between a Stealth Marksman and a Saboteur is an interesting one to make. The Stealth Marksman is clearly the more flexible option because it has access to a single claymore, and its Vector Rifle is made more effective with Blood Trail and Needle. If you have enough ability points, you can make a combination of all 3 of the skill trees, but assuming you're slightly limited, going with the Stealth Marksman build is much more consistent. But that doesn't mean blowing up cars and fuel tanks isn't a viable option. There are a surprising number of them spread around the different maps, but sometimes Remote Start feels like a gimmick, and gimmicks don't always work. On occasion, Advent is smart enough to not stand near the fuel tanks during a firefight, and when that happens, the ability has no use. And then other times, they're dumb enough to strap a fuel tank to their backs, and then that happens. And it's awesome! With all of that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment because those make me feel super awesome. And finally, if you want to listen to me ramble more about miscellaneous topics while playing through XCOM 2, there's a link in the description and on screen now for my playthrough of War of the Chosen. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.